It seems that in recent weeks, the deep state has been pretty active. There's been civil unrest, assassination attempts on leading political candidates, and the deposition of a democratically elected candidate for a major party. And you know me, where there's a conspiracy brewing, you can bet I'll be ready to catch whatever leads I can find. This led me to Butler, Pennsylvania to investigate the Trump assassination attempt that took place 10 days prior to the filming of this footage. And I gotta say, Cognito Inc., they're getting pretty sloppy. I mean, none of this was taped off, well, except for the water tower, of course, where Grassy Knoll Atkinson was.
Sorry, lad. Mistook you for a Kennedy.
Yes, it's a day ending in Y, so that means it's a good day to talk about Inside Job, a show that inspired me so much that I've continued to use its style for my PNG tuber. Despite the constant ridicule from people not in the know, I genuinely love keeping this around as a part of my channel lore and things I like, so it's staying. The point being, I really don't want the discussion of this show to die, because Inside Job deserved better. Nearly 2 years after its cancellation, I find myself returning to this show time and time again, and in this video, I wanted to list a few of the reasons why. Now, adult animation is in dire straits. I feel like there's little to no effort put into making intelligent shows recently. And I'm not saying every show has to be deep, but you should know that the creators don't think you're stupid. I want to make it clear, it's not an issue of me not trying current shows. Because I hate myself, I watched both Velma Season 2 and Mr. Birchum. The reason I gave those two shows a watch to completion is to make an effort to watch diametrically opposed series and get a pretty balanced feel of the state of animation. And I just can't get over how bad both of these series are. They both encapsulate the state of modern American animation. Both are overly politicized to the point where it's not enjoyable for either side of the political spectrum. One actually has an animation budget, but undermines every aspect of its mystery with forced cringe. The muted release of the second season of Velma really showed me the sinister side to how these animation contracts are secured. Series like that are created with the intention of having 2 seasons made, so Velma made it extremely unappealing initially to generate buzz, then they literally didn't even care about promoting the second season because they already accomplished their goal of rage-baiting subscriptions. And the other is a failure that tries to be family-oriented propaganda, but released 15 years too late without having an animation budget. It looks like this show was animated on less than an original episode of Scooby-Doo, yet the total production cost is $9 million to make. I can't even believe that. And with constant controversy, the streaming service that released it was embroiled in by axing one of their talents. It's a massive cope to think they'd gain subscribers back by releasing this series. American animation seems like it's in the dumps right now. But I hear you yelling from the comments section, what about Smiling Friends? I guess I should briefly address the elephant in the room that is Smiling Friends, a show I like and have a lot of great appreciation for. My concern with Smiling Friends is that it has a ton of internet appeal, and for really good reason. However, I sincerely think this caps out at a certain level. It's for sure the humor that I enjoy, but to some extent, it's not a bad thing for certain series to appeal to normies, even if they're not going to be fully invested in it or talking about it on YouTube videos. A good litmus test for this would be my sister, who works in the film industry, kind of the normie typical taste, and she really had trouble getting into Smiling Friends herself. So while I think Smiling Friends is pretty great, I think a show like Inside Job has better potential to reach a higher audience given a chance. The problem is, it never got a chance because Netflix really hates taking chances on creative animation projects. Well, currently they're more focused on dumping all of their money into live action anime adaptations. And this is why Smiling Friends may succeed in the long run, because HBO is actually giving it a chance. Inside Job landed on the wrong platform for what it was trying to accomplish. While I haven't heard any news about a potential season 3, I will continue to keep you all posted on this channel, which would be a great reason to like and subscribe and turn on all notifications. Just saying, if you need someone to go around and take down the deep state, I'm your guy. What I love about Inside Job is the amount of subtle references and details that reward people for repeat viewings. These can range from plot-relevant details to small jokes that you just don't initially pick up on. In my previous video, I covered a handful of them, but an even greater number of details went over my head and still go over my head to this day. But in this video, I would like to tell you that all these cool little Easter eggs make Inside Job one of the best series when it comes to consistency. What American adult animation is lacking right now is a level of consistency that Inside Job exuded in spades. Gravity Falls, the spiritual predecessor to Inside Job, had a ton of this. It really just takes a team of creative and dedicated people to make your viewing experience worth it. Now for this part of the video, I wanted to include the coolest references that I caught in my last viewing of the series. Many of them went over my head for the first time I watched the show. I was sort of turned on how I wanted to tackle this topic. I didn't really want to make this a total clickbait, the 143 references you missed in Inside Job, but instead wanted to talk about the finer details that made the show consistent and what I really like about them. So I will be holding on to more details and theories for future videos if you guys want to see that. Please forgive me if I miss a reference, like the last time when I covered the series for name origins and such. Forgot to mention the Rand Corporation inspired Rand Ridley. You guys were very eager to comment that. If I do miss a reference, please mention it down below. There's plenty of them, so I'll be sure to make a follow-up video if you want to see that. But I want to make this as comprehensive as possible when congregating references for the show so people can come back to this video whenever you need a great reason to defend why this show should never have been canceled. In episode 9, it's revealed that Reagan has a Carl Sagan fetish, and this is apparent since episode 1, where the bust of his head is on her desk. And in her memories, she even has a letter wishing her luck in the pursuit of robotics. Cognito Inc's logo is based on the Omni Consumer Products logo from RoboCop. There's a lot of fun details in the opening that I never picked up on, like the barcode in Reagan's eye, or like when Rand is sunbathing with Steve Jobs, Tupac, and Elvis, they're on top of Amelia Earhart's plane. While the Kennedys are running loose, a graph of corporate profits can be seen, which is the reason for episode 2's entire plot. The only significant detail is the corporate profits make the loss meme. Cognito's employee mall features ripoffs of mainstream brands: 9/11, Bilderberg, McUltras, Pandemic Express, Area 50 Fun, Victoria's State Secrets, John Doe Bakery, Always Swatching Paint Services. I mean, these names are top tier. Whack-A-Mole even features Edward Snowden, who leaked government documents on spying. Glenn makes reference to solving the Israel-Palestine conflict, but can put it back together if Reagan wants it, which given the current situation makes me think he caused October 7th. Cognito invents unfunny memes, including many of the ones you've seen about Kamala Harris being in a coconut tree. JR's stuff I watched on YouTube are 3 channels: ASMR Conspiracies, Tiger Belly, and H3H3. I hate it, but I kind of love it. Sidney Gottlieb worked as a chemist for the CIA during the MKUltra experiments, and Harrison Isbell led addiction research. Their signs can be seen in the McUltra's bar. Still Valley's logo is very reminiscent of the sign from Gravity Falls, once again showing the connection between these shows. While in Still Valley, Reagan makes a comment about turning some hoop earrings into weapons, and Gigi then later uses those weapons in episode 9. The Rainmaker from episode 1 keeps Rand in the house during Tomiko's wedding in episode 6. Reagan's mood interactor from episode 3 is reactivated when talking to Rafe in episode 7. When Reagan is talking to Skullfinger, she has hesitation about wiping someone's mind completely blank, which is awesome foreshadowing to the finale where she wipes the mind of Statler. While Reagan and Brett are traveling in space, you can see the portal to Hollow Earth and Atlantis. As stated in episode 3, Reagan and Rand really don't like hugs, but by episode 9, they're pretty good at managing distant hugs. Rand jumps onto the Yeti cryptid like the Hunter symbiote from Man After Man, an anthropology of the future. In episode 14, Rand makes reference to the new Pope, because we know that the old Pope dies in the maze contest for rogue status. What makes this reference even cooler is that the new Pope is obviously designed off of Pope Francis, while the old Pope is based off of Benedict XVI. This is interesting because there's quite a bit of speculation on Benedict's departure from the papacy, given that he was the only recent Pope to resign. The Delta Sigma Phi paddle from episode 3 makes a return when the cast is going through Brett's room. It's tough to keep track of how many hands Reagan's hand passes through, but it goes from her to Gigi to eventually Rand by episode 9. The algorithm that Reagan talks about in From the Shadow Board in episode 18 makes its first appearance in episode 10, when Reagan and Rand enter her mind, and you can see the Reagan's algorithm for the Nocratic utopia. The first part of that second to last word being revealed to be technocratic. There's a Chuck Palahniuk quote from Reagan's memory, which means she really liked Fight Club. When Rand wipes Orin from Reagan's memory, he calls her his Jelly Bean, which is obviously a direct reference to Project Jelly Bean for Ronald Reagan's memories. The creators poke fun at people like me because there's a list of Rand's enemies, and the 807th entry is people who freeze frame cartoons. I love that they find Alex Jones at the Bohemian Grove prison because he's been the source of basically all of the footage we've seen of Bohemian Grove. The monkeys in 1961's A Space Odyssey eat mushrooms in the opening, which is what occurred in episode 13. JR's underground room includes a poster of a picture of what his cabinet used to look like in season 1. Mike offers dirt to eat to the cast, referencing back to a previous comment that Reagan made. Mike's podcast setup has an NPR mug standing for Mike Public Radio. At the beginning of episode 14, Gigi is reading a magazine about how Leonardo DiCaprio was vaporized just 2 episodes prior. In the Denver International Airport, there's a boarding for the Bermuda Triangle at gate G66, which could be mistakenly read by dyslexic people like myself as 666. In the list of people going to hell, it includes Shion Takeuchi, Alex Hirsch, and many of the other people in the credits of the show. The lowest level of hell is level 9, a reference to Dante's lowest circle of hell from the Inferno. Brett's room in episode 15 includes the Kazam poster from episode 17, as well as the Bud canine jersey from Air Bud in episode 18. The pushing of wheelchair Brett out the door might be a sly reference to the 2011 Granny Off a Cliff campaign ad against Paul Ryan. And probably one of the coolest, most overlooked plot details is in episode 7, when the cast is raiding Skullfinger's lair, and boxes in the background are labeled X37Z, number 480287563. And on top of the mysterious Plan X37, there is a cipher at the beginning of episode 9's intro that mentions X26. I will read from the redacted files here. Executive Office of Cognito Inc. Cognito Operations. Project Code X26. Halted due to containing loose ends. Denied. Asset no longer scrubbed. Documents for secure disposal. Any leaks. Existential threat to plans. Do not trust your gut. I'm very familiar with how Wegener and Caesar ciphers work, especially being an enjoyer of the Call of Duty Zombies Easter eggs, but I've never been the one solving them myself until this show really made me want to do so. So add another useless skill on my resume. I'm sure that's going to help me in the engineering field. This message is one of many that are hidden at the start of each episode. So if you have editing software like myself, you'll be able to find them. I'm going to do a speed run of what each one means. Episode 1 shows a wire running down the neck of the president, confirming he is a robot. Episode 2 shows 3 Kennedys reacting to the assassination of JFK. Episode 3 shows Yale's not-so-secret society Skull and Bones, but everyone is a reptoid. Episode 4 shows the right swipe profile of a guy named Harry Harrison, who appears to be a cringe Gen X passport bro from the UK, based on his humorous bio. Episode 5 shows the reflection of Nostalgia Max chemtrails from a pair of 80s Ray-Bans. Episode 6 shows the image from the Hollow Earth, including shipwrecks, mole people, and a kraken. Episode 7 shows fake identification for the passports of Tupac and Biggie, and some other people whose names I can't remember, but someone in the comments certainly does. Episode 8 shows the famous image of Buzz Aldrin, or should we say the actor who played him on Stanley Kubrick's Moon Return. Episode 10 shows Project Jellybean being used on Ronald Reagan. Episode 11 shows the original Bohemian Grove footage from Alex Jones back in 2000. Episode 12 shows the Illuminati drive that Statler uses to pull up the records of Keanu Reeves being alive since the Middle Ages. Episode 13 shows a cave painting of early man hunting mushrooms related to the backstory of the shrooms. Episode 14 shows a torn picture of Judas Wright, the third Wright brother and inventor of the TSA. Episode 15 shows a message, consume, and the simplicity of this one makes it one of my favorites. Episode 16 shows that Brett has tested positive for a friendship virus on Halloween. Episode 17 shows a script for Shemuzamskisaurus, the dinosaur Stalin Weogini, written by Michael Glazer, Christian Ford, and Robert Soffer, with a final script revision of May 15th, 1995. Episode 18 shows a copy of the Berenstain Bears in a library, which was seen in a previous episode. However, I'm fairly certain there's more information in this single image. For example, I just googled the barcode in the top right corner, and it sent me to a NASA document on satellite coverage maps. Consistency is not only measured in the plot details, but also measured in the animation. This is where Inside Job just blows so many of its contemporaries out of the water. There are certain animation tricks that are used outside of the big bombastic action choreography scenes that people won't instantly pick up on. You might not have noticed it, but your brain did. Lighting specifically stuck out to me in this show, the fact that it didn't feel flat and one-dimensional, how like most American animation feels. I believe that's basically a budget constraint for most productions, however it's just another little detail that makes this series hit so much harder than others do. There's such a cute moment in episode 15 where Reagan's sitting on a desk and using the chair as a footstool and she's pushing it back and forward, and I just love this detail because it's totally something I would do, but also small little quirks and quips not only make this show relatable, but just wonderful to go back to. I've talked about character development of the cast before. I think the quality of the show really gleams when you can revisit it years later and still enjoy the character arcs that they go on. I did a more in-depth discussion of the characters in previous videos, so I won't rehash that. All is to say, they're just as enjoyable now as ever. Usually when I go back to media I tend to pick out all the flaws, but as I just went through all these cool and curious details with you a few moments ago, I find it that I like these characters more and more. It really is the Gravity Falls effect that just keeps me coming back to the series. And with so many mysteries to be resolved, such as X-37, and characters just waiting to make grand reappearances, like Harold of the Flat Earthers, Buzz Aldrin, and Orrin Carthwaite, I just really see the potential of this series. But we don't have anything to go off of, unfortunately. There has been no major news since the cancellation of this show. Now, to the credit of Inside Job's creator, Shion Takeuchi, at the end of last year, she promoted Carol and the End of the World, which is an adult animated series that tackles existentialism, with a large chunk of the Inside Job artists working on that series. It's good to see them still working on projects, but shows like that stay just to make their point and leave. I have a definite appreciation for that, and they certainly have a open lane with the conclusion of BoJack Horseman, but it's not what Inside Job was, and it's not particularly what I'm looking for. To this day, I firmly believe that Inside Job could have surpassed Rick and Morty, especially at the time when it came out. Not only was it so well positioned to fill the vacancy caused by controversy, but it tackles topics on science, interpersonal relations, philosophy, and yes, of course, conspiracy, with a more direct and finer point underneath the exterior of constant profanity. This is one of the things that Inside Job and Smiling Friends really managed to both avoid: the dreadful path of nihilism. Seems like the most popular shows that are being produced for adults in the animation sphere are all marketed to their corporate ESG funders as nihilistic. Because it worked so well for other series in the past, it would be a good investment. An analogous situation is the state of the superhero genre in movies. Most shows and movies are not being created out of passion, but to either check boxes or, in worst case, of spite. There have been outliers in these genres for sure, but that's far and away the rule. So I can only hope that maybe one day the overall landscape improves, eventually enough to give Inside Job a chance to become what it was truly meant to be. And hey, if Futurama can be resurrected time and time again, I will choose to remain hopeful for Inside Job, as long as we in the community can reassure the creators it's still loved, cared for, and wanted. And while that's all I wanted to say for this video, I do sincerely want to thank you for making it to the end. I think in a future video, I want to cover the similarities and stark differences between Inside Job and Rick and Morty, so please stay tuned for that by hitting the subscribe button. I hope to continue keeping this series in the conversation and show you that it's alive, and you know, sometimes that's the best thing you can do for a series. You never know when someone might pick it up. For the foreseeable future, I'm going to continue using this stupid PNG tuber because I really do like Inside Job, and it's a symbol of solidarity with a series that was cut down too short. I don't know, maybe I'll open up the next video of Inside Job with a review of my conspiracy board. But until then, God bless, and I'll see you all next time.
But wait! There's more!
Okay, really quick. The last thing, I promise. I found out during the making of this video, Shion broke her fast off of Twitter by just laughing at the live-action Lilo and Stitch teaser, and gotta say, that's kind of based, and I really miss her, so I just wanted to come back so bad. Alright, that's it. Goodbye.